Hi and welcome to SCW, the wrestling channel here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comments section and please like and share the video as well. Ask SCW back for you once again, answering your questions in the wrestling community. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter. You can ask questions on Facebook, Instagram. You can leave a comment here on the YouTube video. Just leave the hashtag AskSCW and I know to answer your question on the next episode of this series. Of course, the coronavirus is going around massively at the moment, so that is impacting a lot of the questions involved on today's episode. But we'll be talking about WWE, NXT, and Impact Wrestling gets a shout as well. But yeah, of course, just quickly before we start with the questions with coronavirus, do make sure to stay safe. Make sure to listen to any advice that is given from your governments or from wherever you're getting it from. And just make sure that together we can beat this virus together and we can go back to normality. For those that are currently experiencing quarantine, lockdowns, whatever you're going through, we can beat this together. So yeah, let's stick together. It's not just the wrestling community for this, it's a world community. We have to stick together and beat this virus. So without further ado, let's get into the first question this week. Noob & Co. providing it for us here. We've got a few questions to kick off. Do you think that the city of Tampa Bay will pull the plug on WrestleMania 36 if WWE won't postpone it? What do you think of last night's Smackdown Live? And what do you think of Asuka's recent performance from the Elimination Chamber to what at that time was last night as SmackDown is ready for a push? Well, lots of questions there. We'll start with the WrestleMania 36 because I think that's the biggest topic right now. Things are changing with the coronavirus all the time. Every place is gone from different situations, whether it goes to the lockdowns, whether it's change of where people can and can't be. And we also, we look at that with WrestleMania and say, right, okay, well, we look at America right now. And they have banned, first off, most of Europe. Now, all of Europe cannot fly in. A lot of the fan base, of course, will fly over for WrestleMania. It's a special occasion. People come from all over the world. So you do think that really it should be pulled the plug on. I will give a mention as well, by the way, to Dylan Ketchum very quickly, because he did ask that, do we think that they're going to cancel WrestleMania 36 because of this outbreak? So I want to make sure I give everyone their shout out, whether it's the same question coming in or not. But to talk about WrestleMania 36, it needs postponing. There's no two ways about it. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that announcement was made now that arenas shouldn't have more than 50 people in attendance. Well, I mean, if there's 50 people in attendance, does that include the staff as well? Does it include the commentary, the wrestlers, the camera crew? I mean, Raw and Smackdown, as we go on to one of your other questions, is going now in the Performance Center with no audience. So it just makes you believe that when you look at this, that there's no other way but to postpone it. So many fans can't get there via access. Fans can't even go even if you're in the United States. I mean, can WrestleMania really be done in front of no audience, in front of 50 people? I don't think that's fair. I mean, you look at the Hall of Fame as well. I mean, it's their moment to go into the Hall of Fame. People have paid for that as well. You've got NXT take over Tampa the night before. It's really a mess. It's just come at a bad time for WWE. But I mean, financially, they probably are able to postpone it. It's probably going to be more detriment to other people like fans if it is postponed or cancelled. But I do believe that Tampa will cancel it if WWE don't. I think it does need cancelling. I'm not sure why it hasn't been, because sport everywhere else seems to be cancelled near enough at this stage. Just looking at the USA as well. I mean, NBA, baseball, even the XFL has postponed the whole season, which of course is involved with Vince McMahon. So why he's not done it with WWE is a big question mark here. But they are trying to give us something with those, and we'll come into that second question. As I say, I do think it will be postponed if WWE don't. I expect it could be postponed if we, even by the time you watch this video, because as I say, things change day by day. But going on to Smackdown Live, it was good. I enjoyed it. I liked the fact that, despite it being very weird and surreal, I mean, there was no audience, so let's not kid ourselves. This wasn't a perfect show, but I like the fact that they tried to give us something fresh. Always WWE tries to bring entertainment where, it's not possible to give entertainment. I think that's one of the reasons they probably try to hold on with WrestleMania. Every event, from what I'm aware of, that's been cancelled with WWE so far has been cancelled for them, not on their behalf. They love to give people entertainment, and they will continue to try to do so. It's just with what's going on, is that the smartest strategy for your working staff? I'm not sure. Personally, from my opinion, I wouldn't say that it was, but that's just my opinion. But going on that SmackDown, I mean, the MVP for me was the commentary. Triple H, I think, playing the roles and playing the idea that it's such a small team of staff, going from commentator to to the cameraman, to helping with makeup. It was very entertaining. His work, the impressions of of Vince McMahon, Gordon Soley, very entertaining stuff. It certainly added flavour, and it just shows how important commentary is to a product. Because despite the fact that what we was watching in ring could be perceived to be a bit awkward, I do think that it was a lot more entertaining because we were enjoying what we were hearing along with watching the matches. I mean, you go back to sort of like the 90s, you've got Bobby Heenan commentating, you've got JR and Jerry Lawler in their prime. It was so entertaining to listen to these guys. And it's the same with NXT. It's one of the big things why people love NXT. Mauro Ranallo, I mean, if he wasn't doing it, people would feel differently, I think. I mean, if Ronaldo was on Raw, I think people would be buzzing for Raw even more than what they already are. I think it just comes to show how important that role is. But I do think the fact that it has such a small crew to put on a show in general, I think was really good. I do think the one major minus point for me in a way was the half an hour to 45 minutes with the Elimination Chamber repeat. We'd already seen it, so technically we don't need to see it again. What I did like about it was a great point that was raised on Twitter. I can't remember at this point who raised that point, but for people that don't have any sport or anything to watch, they may have tuned into Fox for that show thinking, right, I get something that's new, that's fresh, and I can watch it. And they get to see WWE perhaps at its best. It was probably arguably the strongest match of that pay-per-view. A full crowd, and that shows the difference of what a difference a week can make. That many people in attendance to watch a show, and they can say, right, okay, when WWE gets back to what they do best, they get to see that. So I do think that is... that was in a way a plus point, even if for myself personally I found it as a negative because I'd already seen it and didn't feel the need to see it again, even though really the match was fine when watching it and you still pop for the big spots, but still. But yeah, as a show itself, I was just pleased with something there. I'm interested to see what Raw will bring. I can say to you by the time I'm recording this that Raw is tonight. Austin, Edge and The Undertaker all expected to be there. So I'll be interested to see what this is like for a 3-hour show. A 2-hour show was interesting, but was more or less cut to 1 hour and 15 minutes. What is Raw going to bring? Will we get the full 3 hours? Will we get something on the network or something that's repeated from previous again? We'll have to wait and see. But it's certainly be interesting to see how they go with Raw and how long they'll be able to keep this going with the Performance Center. Your last question asking about Asuka's recent performance Elimination Chamber. If I'm going to be honest, it was a bit weak for my liking. I wanted someone to stop Shayna, or not stop her, but at least give a dent in Shayna. You could argue that Asuka got a fence in and got the Asuka lock in, but I just kind of felt that Shayna always was so dominant that there was just... I don't know, I just felt Asuka was put away quite easily, especially when Shayna had been in the ring for like 5-10 minutes, albeit she'd had a rest period for at least half or more than half of that time. Asuka didn't last that long in the ring. She was probably in the ring for about 5 minutes at the most. So I kind of felt that the performance was a bit weak, not from Asuka, but from a booking standpoint. I think Asuka should have been booked stronger and could have had, I don't know, maybe a 10-15 minute saga. Maybe she should have come in the match earlier with Shayna Baszler just to make it seem a little less dominant from Baszler. But there was a story behind that match, and WWE wanted to deliver that for Baszler. They did it. Perhaps it wasn't the most nicely executed storytelling they've ever done, but they needed to make Shayna look very strong very quickly, and they did achieve that. As for the appearance on Smackdown, it was good to see her come there, and I mean, to be fair, like to get involved with the Women's Tag Team Championship. They need that direction to go towards WrestleMania. Bliss and Nikki Cross seem to be definitely in the frame. I think Natalya and Beth Phoenix will be added. That's what I've seen going around the rumour mill. Whether that be true or not, we'll have to wait and see. Raw will be an interesting way to see if that will be something there. If Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross will be involved on that tonight as well. That would be interesting to see. But Asuka shows she doesn't need a crowd. She played her part perfectly on that SmackDown. And dancing on the ramp to an empty stadium, or an empty performance centre, we should say, it was quite entertaining viewing. So yeah, I mean, I quite enjoyed the performance on SmackDown. It definitely gave some of Asuka's edge back. Next question comes from Joseph Ashcraft. What are some alternative sites if WrestleMania can't be held at the RJS Stadium, of course, in Tampa? So we're still this is the thing with WrestleMania. If it gets postponed, if it gets cancelled, what happens? What's the next step? I do believe that the best thing, as I said, to do is postpone it. Perhaps maybe we can be back in the same position in June or July. I don't know. But the thing is, the storytelling needs to continue until that point. Would it be the right time for an off-season? And I'm going not really on your question at this point, but I think it's something that is probably worth raising at this point. An off-season feels like it's the best time, if ever, to do in WWE, just purely because I think fans, although we're grateful for getting the entertainment, we're losing out for not being able to go and watch this live. And I don't see, now coming into your question, where WWE can do this show live on April the 5th, because, Europe is pretty much ruled out at this point. It's probably the worst place to go now with involved with the coronavirus at this particular moment. You know, you look at Asia, it's probably not an option either at this particular moment. The USA is New York, I believe I read, is starting their quarantine as well. Certainly things are closing in New York. So, I mean, you look and say, like, the whole world is sort of becoming at that point where I don't know where WWE can go as an alternative idea. If things are postponed and Tampa doesn't want it, then there's lots of different options. They can see what stadium is available at the time. But I believe that it would involve a lot more planning usually a lot of these venues are announced a year in advance of where they're going to be, because that much planning needs to go into where you're going to host a WrestleMania, where you're going to put the Hall of Fame, the NXT TakeOver the day before, access. There's so much that needs to take into consideration. It's not just WrestleMania. One alternative that they could do, and I mean, it would probably have to involve giving a lot of people refunds. I read a rumour on the internet, and again, it's a rumour, pinch of salt, but the rumour was that Saudi Arabia would be interested in having WrestleMania there, and that they would give WWE the amount of money that they would probably take in profit from WrestleMania anyway to go and do the show there. So, I mean, that is a possibility. That is an alternative if you're asking for an immediate alternative. I don't know their situation with the coronavirus, if they are affected or if they are in any form of lockdowns themselves. But I mean, that is an alternative. Whether it's something that people will be a fan of, I'm not sure. But we'll have to wait and see. As I've said, I think a postponement is the best thing they can do. Whether they still have the ability to do the show in Tampa in 2, 3, 4 months' time, I'm not sure. How will that affect the rest of the booking? How will that affect a lot of things, really? There's a lot of questions, and unfortunately not enough answers at the moment. I think maybe this is a reason why WWE is delaying this as long as they have to postpone everything. But I just don't see how at the moment it can all go ahead, and I feel very negative giving that answer. But alternative, perhaps there could be one or two out there, but I'm not sure what the best solution is right now. Next question comes from Austin Whitley. How long do you think we have empty arena shows? For as long as the coronavirus is causing such a risk, and as long as there's not a lockdown in the Florida area, as soon as there's a lockdown there, then that definitely stops it. I think that actually pauses all WWE TV at that point. So I mean, if I was WWE right now, these empty arena shows, because so much can change so quickly, if you want to make sure you can maximise keeping TV on for everyone, I would record a few shows in one go, because, I mean, if you're going to, like I said, keep putting like a 30-minute interval of something of when WWE is at its best and it's full, so, with a full arena, you haven't got to do as much writing, and you can make some longer matches just to put something there. I felt the matches were very short on Smackdown, just to go back on that review. It felt that they could have actually dragged everything they had out, but I guess they probably want to not take out so much of their wrestlers because there's no one to perform in front of, so I understand that point as well. But if you record a lot of stuff now, you have the ability to continue these empty arena shows going should there be a lockdown. If not, then I believe they'll keep doing this until it's safe again. But at this point, I feel, certainly someone who's definitely not an expert at this, it wouldn't be fair to give a guesstimate answer. But I mean, I would hope by the summer that things will be a bit better. Next question, Get Choked Wrestling Podcast. Besides buying merch, are there any other ways to support indie wrestlers during the coronavirus shutdown on shows? This is a very good question, and it's a very tough question. Of course, merchandise, go and support your favourite wrestlers, whether they be indie wrestlers, whether they any company. I mean, it's a great time to try and support if you have the ability to do it. I mean, of course, a lot of people are probably in lockdown that could be watching this right now that probably don't have, probably worried how long they were in lockdown for. Of course, if you're in a position where you're not going to financially benefit from this situation, it's probably a worrying time for a lot of people. But I mean, take for example, I mean, we mentioned Oscar earlier in the video. She has a YouTube video, a YouTube series. So with Xavier Woods, Up Up Down Down, go and support their YouTube channels. Give them some viewership. I assume that for their stuff, that viewers creates cash, and that can really help. Same with the YouTube community. You could, I know that's not indie wrestlers, but it's a great time to support everybody that does this stuff, because we probably will have more time on our hands to go and check out more material that's out there. You know, I know that Wrestle Talk, actually, I'd say this before I move on any further. Wrestle Talk are putting on a free indie show, which is a free pay-per-view to watch. I would recommend as many people trying to check that out as possible. I know that Will Ospreay is going to have a match against B. Priestley, funnily enough, on that show. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they're able to put a show together. It's going to be an empty arena show for people concerned with coronavirus. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be for free viewing for people to check out. So give that viewership. Let's try and make that a big success, because you never know what that might lead to for those indie wrestlers going in the future. They might get spotted, they might get noticed, they might get more bookings in future. There are ways we can do it, even if you can't help with merchandise and spending money at this stage. Andrew McCall, I hope I said that right, is going to be giving us our next question. Do you think WWE will do an NXT versus main roster angle on NXT, since all three shows will be taped at the Performance Center? Well, it's definitely a good idea for an angle. The only thing that I feel questions this at the moment is that we're heading into WrestleMania season, and a lot of the storylines now should be in place. You would hope they would be for the show of shows, and WWE, you would think, would want to continue in that direction. If they were to postpone WrestleMania, they could try and do something in the meantime, but then it would seem kind of weird to ditch all your storylines to do a new storyline like this. I think it's a great idea as a storyline otherwise. It certainly would be a way to mix things up. You could arguably scrap a lot of your WrestleMania plans and make this something that they could do, and it could be something that could certainly have a wave over a length of time until we can get back into arenas where people will be able to come and see the show. So from an idea perspective, I think it's very good. I just don't think it's something that they would perhaps do at this moment. But one thing that certainly goes to support, because they would fly these superstars around the country anyway. Rhea Ripley has a rivalry with Charlotte Flair. Of course, that's Raw and NXT. And we've got Shayna Baszler and Becky Lynch, which Shayna Baszler did have the NXT graphic come up when she did come to the ring, I believe. It was at it was either Raw or the Elimination Chamber. I have seen that graphic, so she's still seen as an NXT wrestler. So you look at that and say, well, they are already doing some of this cross-branded rivalries. So it's certainly not easy to make those happen. And as we've seen now, we've seen with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross with Asuka on this past Smackdown, which again we've mentioned in the video already. They are sort of mixing the brands a little bit. So there is a possibility that this can happen. So we'll have to wait and see as it develops. It depends how long this is going to last for. But as an idea of a way to get out of it and do alternative storylines, it certainly is something that would be interesting to see. Next question comes from Ty at World Order 2. So that WWE Smackdown, best episode ever? Which of one's come close? The 9/11 episode, due to the state of the country here and maybe there too. And a bonus question as well. Impact is in a great position during the corona, since they have 1.5 months taped and in the can. How can I capitalise on that? Two very great questions, two interesting questions there with SmackDown. Yeah, I mean, it was a good SmackDown episode, and you're looking there for other ones there. I mean, that 9/11 one, of course, for the patriotism and the fact that they put that show ahead. It shows that sometimes when people are in a vulnerable position, and also the company, that sometimes they can put out some strong work. I mean, as a modern episode, obviously when after the Crown Jewel last year, and they couldn't get the superstars back for SmackDown, they put an incredible episode, which was a complete change of plans, which goes into what was the last question. Apparently that was a last minute thing, a change of plans, and we got the Raw, SmackDown, NXT really kicked off the ground just like that. And NXT was shown so strongly. So in a way, it wouldn't surprise me if they do bring some NXT stars onto these shows if they need to. But going on to your question, yeah, it was a very strong episode when you look at what the positives from it were. And I look at that episode where NXT was involved on that SmackDown to build for Survivor Series. I think that's one of the strongest SmackDowns that's ever been produced. From other ones that we could go back in history, we got that famous Iron Man match with Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle, which I believe was in 2003. That SmackDown was strong, and of course that took an hour of the show and was probably one of the best matches ever. So I do recommend people check that out on the network if they haven't. Some other ones. I mean, of course, that time when Lesnar and Big Show destroyed the ring. I remember that SmackDown being particularly strong. But my favourite SmackDown, and I can't fully remember exactly when this was, but I believe it was in the early days of SmackDown, possibly 1999, and Triple H had to go through 5 matches in one night, and he had to win 3 of them to get involved, I believe, in a 6-pack challenge, and I believe it was involved in the WWE Championship at the time. I remember he was in a chokeslam match with the Big Show. He was in a boiler room brawl with Mankind. There were some really solid matches that were involved with that. So for me, that would definitely be my particular favourite SmackDown looking back at it. There are some strong ones over the time. Of course, you look at the first one ever, of course, Rock versus Triple H. Shawn Michaels was a special guest referee. I believe then the first official weekly SmackDown with the Buried Alive match, the Tag Team Buried Alive match. So there were a lot of great SmackDowns over the time, but that Triple H one particularly for me would be my choice as the one that is a must-see if you haven't seen it or if you want to go back as the best SmackDown of all time. As a bonus, Impact Wrestling, I mean, of course, this is the pro from doing multiple tapings in one go. They've got 6 weeks there. They can use that now, and they will be able to air those as if fans are still there in attendance. The way to capitalise on it would be right now to record more if you have the ability to, or find ways that perhaps you can even stretch that material further. I know that they like to do the Impact Plus stuff. Maybe they can have maybe longer stints of showing matches on that. You could have maybe a 15-20 minute match, just like WWE are doing, just to extend that material, because if there is a lockdown or a reason they cannot continue filming after that, they will come to an immediate standstill and they will be forced nothing to do but to show old content. But like you say, right now it's a strong position they're in because of that. The best thing they can do is to try and make more material on the side right now. Stuff that's not in the arena, I think, would be fantastic if they can record stuff, whether it's a promo work. I remember going on Impact Wrestling, as we're talking about it, Moose, when he was the multi-sported, talented guy, he was in the basketball courts, he's been in the Octagon. Film stuff where you can film it. Try and make some angles work. And some of the most entertaining stuff is done when it's not involved in a wrestling ring, because that's where it's really creative. So I think that would be a great way to go forward for all wrestling companies, but for Impact Wrestling in particular. And if they have the ability then to actually bring some matches together when it comes around to the next set of tapings, maybe things are not as bad or things have calmed down, then they'll be in the position to throw matches along with it, and they can put some really entertaining stuff. So that would be my advice for any company, but particularly for Impact Wrestling. We've got Italian Habs Mike for us next now with an idea for us now. What about for Johnny Gargano and the Tommaso Ciampa feud? What if it leads to a double turn where Ciampa turns heel and Gargano turns face? To me, Ciampa is better as a heel and Gargano is better as a babyface. Well, you wouldn't rule it out at the stage. I mean, I do agree with you with both of them that those are the roles that are best suited. What I like about this time round is that the role is reversed, and it's the first time we're really seeing Gargano as the heel, Ciampa as the face, and it does bring a different dynamic to the table. The only thing that is what could lead to that double turn, which I think would definitely work, is that what a lot of Gargano was saying was kind of true. We've just ignored all the bad stuff that Ciampa did. He was out for 6 months, and all of a sudden, Daddy's home. In a way, he's right. He's not wrong when he's saying this stuff. So he feels he's had to turn to the dark side just because of it. My only negative with that suggestion is we have seen that match so many times under that routine. This way, it is slightly fresh. It's slightly different. But as I said previously on previous episodes, I would like to see this be the last time they wrestle, just purely because we've seen it so many times, and I think it can get to a stage where people will react negatively to this match being put together. A lot of people do it with the main roster, and like I said, I hate saying main roster really because now there are 3 main rosters really. But with Raw and SmackDown, people are quick to argue with the repetitiveness of the matches. Maybe that's due to the lack of creative writing. Here, there is a great story that's gone with Ciampa Gargano, which is why perhaps it's more accepted. But at the same time, I would hate people to start turning on it. So for me, I would like to see this to be the last time between the two. But I wouldn't rule it out. It's certainly an interesting idea. It certainly would be something that would add, and some of these two would be more than capable of doing in a match. Of doing a double turn, because a double turn is very hard to do in a match. You have to be talented, you have to have a good story, and everything has to fall into place perfectly for that to be executed. So when it's been done previously, it's always been done perfectly by the people in the ring, and they deserve massive props for it, and the writing teams for putting it together. So can these two do that? They certainly can. Is it an idea that could be explored? Definitely, why not? Is it something I want to see though? I'm not so sure. Headlock Talk podcast with our next question. What is the most disappointing retirement match in wrestling history? I'm going to be quick and brief on this one because really one comes to mind that stands out for me, and unfortunately it's a very recent one. It's Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle and Baron Corbin. Now, I get the point what they were trying to do with it. And Baron Corbin, they want to build him up and they wanted to make him something. And I think they've done a good job of building Corbin over the last 12 months or so. I think he's had a good rise. He's been in arguably a main event program with Roman Reigns for the last few months, so he's become king of the ring. They've done a good job with what they've done of elevating Corbin from it. I think the problem with this retirement match was that it wasn't very long. Kurt was past his best in my opinion, and it's not the opponent that fans wanted him to go away seeing from the ring. I think a lot of people wanted John Cena because that was Cena's first match. I particularly wanted Daniel Bryan because it was a dream match for me that I hadn't seen, I wanted to see. So when you have these great options of these pure wrestling matches that we could have seen Kurt Angle have, we got Baron Corbin, which was a different style of competitor, and I don't think it's the style people wanted to see. I think people liked it even less, even though there was a big build with these two, they liked it even less when they saw that Corbin come out quite a clean and quick victor. Last question this week comes from Too Sweet Wrestling. Sport that you're missing the most due to this pandemic? Well, of course, we have pro wrestling still at the moment, but I do miss it in its natural form, of course. I want to see it with the big arenas. I want to see it with the crowds. But, of course, there's a lot of sport that's been cancelled. And, of course, I'm English. And for me, where we are, English football, I know for Americans it's soccer, but I'm going to say football throughout, is massive for us. And we have had the postponement of that this last weekend. It's going to be postponed due to coronavirus for the next couple of weeks. There is even discussions that the season may not finish and what they're going to do, and that is going to take place on Thursday this week. So if anyone is fans of the English Premier League, then that's the news on that. I'm a supporter of a team called West Ham United who are fighting to actually stay in the league, but we were thankfully in a safe position at the time. We had 9 games left of the season. The season traditionally goes from August and finishes in May, so it stopped things at a very crucial time because a lot of things are about to be decided. It was clear from the English Premier League that Liverpool were going to win the league, and we look and say, but everything else was kind of unclear. Liverpool were 2 wins away from winning the league, and they were so strong. They'd only lost 1 game the whole season, so it was unlikely they were going to lose 7 or 8 games of the last 9. So it'll be interesting to see if they're rewarded if the season can't finish. But of course, with European competitions, we have the UEFA Champions League, which you see all the teams face each other from Europe, and the Europa League as well, which is also a similar competition, but just not the biggest teams. It's probably the second tier of the teams that get into Europe. And it's a shame to not see all that finish because outside of wrestling, I'm a big football fan. And I would like to see those seasons finishing. For the same with wrestling, I would like to see a postponement rather than actually see the season seem like null and void. I want to see a result. I want to see if people can escape who are not meant to go and be relegated. I want to see champions be crowned for being champions. And I want for our champions, as much as, it's not my team that's winning it. I think that anyone deserves the opportunity to get to celebrate that moment for actually winning a game and winning it in front of their supporters. Because supporters travel up and down the country, and as I'm sure with a lot of American sports as well, whether it's Major League Baseball, whether it's NBA, NFL, XFL, people have gone and supported their teams, whether it's home or away, and some people go to watch every game of every season. Same with WWE, they go to as many events that they can attend to support that product, and to just for it to be just forgotten about is a bit of a shame. So for me, that is the one I'm going to be most missing. And of course, if WWE does have a postponement, yeah, I'm going to miss it. I mean, the only thing that comes better with wrestling in comparison is that there's so much content that you can watch out there. We mentioned Impact Wrestling. I've got taped stuff. We've got the WWE Network. I mean, for me personally, right now, I'm going through a lot of the old WCW stuff, and I'm about to start Nitro. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can continually watch still, even if you don't have new live wrestling to watch. So, as much as I would miss it, there is stuff that you can still watch in the meantime that can keep you entertained. But that's everything for me on this particular video. I hope you've enjoyed it. What I will say to you is that I have some time on my hands. So if there are any particular videos you would like me to go and make, or throw in a suggestion on this video, and if I think it's worth a video that could be worth making, then I will do that this week. I'm open to suggestions and ideas, so do feel free to do that for us while this is going on at the moment. But I do appreciate the viewership, and do please like and share if you've enjoyed it. You can always subscribe. I'm not far from 400 subscribers. Would love to hit the milestone. But of course, I would like that if you guys are enjoying it. And yeah, make sure to support the wrestling community. Make sure to follow everyone on Twitter. Make sure to go check out other wrestling related material that's involved right now. There's a lot of great podcasts out there, a lot of great YouTube channels. That support wrestling right now. And if there is something that as well, like you say, that we are missing outside of it, support that as well. And yeah, I hope to see you guys next time. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. And this is SCW, the wrestling channel.